Tonight's presentation is by some gentlemen I happened to encounter at Walnut Creek City Hall while I was over there working. There's a lot of hams hanging out in that place, just if you don't realize it. They've got a number of employees. It's a phenomenal place like that. So tonight's presentation is Walnut Creek Searched Most Excellent Adventures in Winlink. I think I got the gist of that. And tonight, presenting for us, we have John Trinterud, K9ONR, who's the project lead, and Walnut Creek CERT Winlink test system. He's got a background of 55 plus years in communications, telephony, computer operations, Unix software support, organic farming, and organic inspections. His wife, Colleen, is the Red Cross External Affairs Rep for Pleasant Hill, retired in 2020 after graduating several times. First licensed in 2012 as KJ6PAP, is now a general class, and graduated from CERT after 10 years. Then we also have Jim Sharkey, Turnbull, WW1ACE, who is the lead tester in WinLink Express onboarding for the CERT hams, working with us on the test system. He's a teacher of special needs children, a VE, a volunteer traffic cop for the Vaccine Distribution Center in Concord, ham cram GOTA instructor for Walnut Creek CERT, just about anything else that needs to be done. First licensed in 2015 as KK6IDN, now an extra class, and the Walnut Creek CERO lead. And I believe that's all who's doing our presentation tonight. Gentlemen, take it away.
I will start this off. We are going to basically try to give you an idea of what we've tried to accomplish here over the last number of months. I'm John Trinterud, K9ONR. This is all about Walnut Creek CERT's WinLink test system. We divided this thing into two phases. We have a test system, which is largely a proof of concept that we could make it work. And the actual implementation, Don Prosnitz is heading up based on the work that you're seeing here tonight for the first time. We're also going to do this discussion for MDARC in May, and that should be quite a lot of fun as well. And Justin, I really want to thank you for giving us this opportunity to come and talk to you folks tonight. We were really looking forward to it. Before we can tell you how we got to WinLink, we got to tell you a little bit about how CERT in Walnut Creek is organized, because we are a little bit different than what many CERT operations look like. We are sponsored by the city of Walnut Creek and not by a police or fire department, which is the normal state of affairs for CERT. So you heard the term CERO. Now you can't be in CERT unless you dream up your own acronym, and that's the price of entering into CERT. You got to have your own acronym. So CERO is the CERT EOC radio operators. The reason we did this is very specific. Normally, CERTs are supposed to go to their command post. CERO's command post is City Hall. And we are in police department territory, which means we all have to be backgrounded, fingerprinted, Department of Justice, FBI, the whole 9 yards. That also means we can't bring in relief operators, which gets really interesting when there's only 3 of them. And we're running 24/7. I and another ham who's now left the area, Mark Birch, started CERO back in 2013. And you can see this is somewhat of an old slide right here. This is when we did the orientation for CERO. The reason we did it was we had never managed to get the last 100 feet on getting messages into the EOC. We had everybody in the field organized. They were communicating, was working like a charm, but we couldn't get the piece of paper to the EOC message room over here. So what you have in the field, you see these yellow boxes, that's literally what they're called. They were bought years ago with a grant from AT&T. And they are old, obsolete Yaesu motorcycle radios. The advantage to them is they were water resistant, and so they worked real well in the field. So in the box is a battery charger and I think it's a 12 amp hour sealed lead acid battery and this little radio. And then they have a J pole on top of some antenna sections that they put up in each command post. So You can see by the names of the command posts, these are places that are scattered throughout the city of Walnut Creek. And they're like rallying points for people in that area and from that area. Rossmore, where I live, is slightly different. The Golden Rain Foundation gave the Rossmore CERT group a gift of a Yaesu 8800, which is why it's wrapped up this way. Now, I will tell you that that thing is portable in the sense that it has handles. It weighs about 90 pounds on a hand truck, and I've personally wrenched my back trying to get it in a truck. All right, so yellow boxes, if you hear that term, there is a dedicated ham operator in each command post whose job it is to communicate with the city. And when we say the city, we're talking about a ham pier sitting behind two Kenwood TMB 71s and a radio room at City Hall. Everything you see on this page is done manually on pre-printed and pre-formatted forms with all the legibility problems that that entails, and you're very familiar with. So CERT and CERO, CERT in the field, CERO at City Hall. Okay, this is our, now the way we did this was we did this as almost like the business case, which is what I used to do at Pacific Bell for many years. Before you could change something, you need to decide what the problem was and what your current situation was. You've got 8 command posts in the field, and you've got a radio operator and a scribe in each one, 2 more in City Hall. You got 18 people tied up trying to transcribe, manually send, manually write field messages, situational awareness throughout Walnut Creek to City Hall. The messages are usually less than 30 words a minute, transferred by hand at both ends with people who don't live in the same family. We have to maintain manual message logs, and we have real legibility issues. And you know about SneakerNet because you guys do it too. That's how we get it to the EOC. This is a huge amount of people. Can we change this? This was the challenge that we issued to CERT. And we have another little bit of an issue at City Hall. This is actually the functional flow of how CERT reports situational awareness to the EOC. So if you come over here on the right-hand side, these would be search and rescue teams with input into the field plans group. Messages that meet the criteria that the city has asked to be told about are passed through the incident commander or the team leader, and there's your yellow box operator. Comes into CERO. It used to be the message center for the EOC was on the 2nd floor. It was through a locked door that we couldn't go through because we didn't have permission. So we'd pound on the door and push the paper underneath the door, and then it would get to the EOC. And then they moved the EOC to the 3rd floor. And now my wife, Colleen, who's now working for Red Cross, is also the CERO scribe. And we tried to explain to her that she needed to run up and down the stairs with pieces of paper. And she, being wiser than the men in the group, said something that I won't repeat here because we're under FCC regulations. And we said, okay, we got to do a better job of this than paper flow. And so this was the challenge that started us off on this search. So if we say we think we can change this, what are our alternatives? And I want to tell you, we looked at a bunch of them. We spent a lot of time on mesh. We looked at satellite-based internet called Starlink by Tesla for about 30 seconds and saw $500 a month and figured, no. And WinLink Express was interesting, but we couldn't find anybody who did packet, and it's only 1,200 baud. We don't have HF radios, and we don't have the internet in the field, and we don't have access to it at City Hall because they're looking at security concerns if we tried to put third-party software at City Hall. And as far as FL Digi and FL Message, literally been there, tried that, and it seemed to need a voice net and a digital net on the same channel. Did you get the pop-up? No, I didn't. Let me send it again. Did I get the pop-up? No, I didn't. And it became faster to send it manually than to argue about why the pop-up didn't work. We sort of gave up on that. I want to go back to mesh for just a second because we tried 4 different ideas. If you remember the old days of HSMM, which were the reflashed Linksys routers, we tried that. The protocol that that network uses is listen before transmit, which means essentially that the more nodes you add, the more polite the network becomes and no traffic is sent, which is not very helpful. We looked at the Arden microwave networks, which I'll spend some more time on. San Francisco Wireless Emergency Mesh. Some of you folks know Matheson Ott. He came over and talked to us on Zoom. We spent a lot of time with him. The new packet radio were fascinating. I found this on Hackaday. They're essentially UHF TCP/IP router / ham radio with an RF preamp that was supposed to be 20 watts. We actually bought some of these, tried them, and the range was not sufficient for us. So we had to give up on that. And then Marcel Stieber is AI6MS. He's in Cupertino, and he designed and built a mesh network out of commercial microwave gear. And he did it before Arden even existed. So he's been running it for many years. So we talked to him about commercial Part 15 networks. So we spent a lot of time on this. And actually what started us was this picture. This is about 10 months ago. Don Prosnitz sent this to us and said he'd gotten a question from Matheson Ott and also Jim Siemens who is also a CERO, but he's our ARRL sectional lead here lives in Walnut Creek. And what this was all about was expanding the San Francisco Wireless Emergency Network to the south peak of Mount Diablo. And the only thing that stalled it was the pandemic, and they couldn't install their gear on South Peak. So the question that Don posed to us was, if this is going in, could we expand mesh to the Walnut Creek CERT locations, the command posts in City Hall?
Okay, you guys all see that yellow line? There's a section right here that literally, it goes a little bit up there closer, John. It goes right over my house. Literally, that yellow line goes over my house, but I would have to put in a tower roughly 20 to 30 feet up at the top of my hill just to hit that same yellow line.
So this is what started our discussions. And this was one of the alternatives that we spent a lot of time on. And there are a lot of really clever online microwave design tools. Ubiquity has a really nice one. But our command posts are buried behind buildings. They are buried under trees to where they're designed to be hidden so they don't offend the neighbors. The same neighbors we're trying to save, but that's a different discussion. And there's some funny things that we discovered here. To get from this pistol range, which is the police department's pistol range, Boundary Oaks Golf Course is in the middle of this little section, and this north gate is one of our command posts. This is less than a quarter mile apart. It is completely surrounded by trees and golf course. You couldn't get a microwave network in there to save your soul. The only way of getting across from City Hall, you had to get to John Muir and get an antenna that was literally 300 feet above ground level to get over the hill that is between those 2 points. To get from Buena Vista to Homestead, this goes right through the center of town. So we were looking at asking people to make sure they left their drapes open at both ends of the house, and to not, maybe you'd want to move the couch so you wouldn't be sitting there. And Mike Patterson came up with a really good idea for tree pruning. Rather than involve Davis Tree Service, he wanted a 1500 watt linear amp at both ends, and we would clear our own path. We looked at this, and this is beyond our capabilities. We were not going to go out and climb towers. This was not something that was doable. We also couldn't afford It wasn't so much the microwave equipment, that's cheap. It was the towers and the terrain that we face. So this didn't work. Probably we spent at least 2 months solid on mesh and tried everything we could think of. And you can't bend microwaves. So we decided, okay, let's look at WinLink again. And this is the traditional WinLink network. You start in the field down here on the bottom, and then you have all these different HF and VHF protocols, transmission protocols that go to things called remote message servers. What they do is transfer it to the internet, and then it goes up to 2 Amazon server farms on opposite ends of the coast. And actually the emails are stored at the CMS or Common Message Service level. And we thought, okay, this is kind of cool, but we don't have HF or internet in the field. So how much good would this do us? The more we looked at this middle area, the more it dawned on us that it's radio in on one side and it's internet out. Okay, now this is dangerous because you're going to see how I start to think. We don't have access to the internet. Can I do all of this with just radio? And these nodes here are smart enough to where if they don't have access to the internet, they can send a message to one that does, which means somehow that message has to be saved before it can be retransmitted, which led us into, okay, let's do some more reading. We got in touch with a WinLink development group. And what it turned out was we actually could do something, but we had to get over these issues first. We don't have internet or HF anywhere. We can't find a nearby RMS to talk to. We can't connect to the internet, and we have AC power issues in the field. So is this still viable? Well, yeah. And this is where it got really interesting. We built our own remote mail server or message server at City Hall. And it turns out it's only a single PC with two main programs running in it. RMS Relay, which is essentially a post office, and RMS Packet, which handles the radio side going out on VHF. Our Kenwood TMB71 has a rear data jack, so it's perfect for this use. You put a sound card in the middle, and all of a sudden you have a complete remote message service, private RMS mail server that we run. And we also took all the telnet connections that normally went to CMS, and we pushed them right back into RMS Relay, which means our EOC and other people that don't use on-the-air transmissions can send and receive email locally. So this is a private remote message server fed by VHF on a single frequency with 15 users. So now how did we solve that sneaker net problem? Well, our new IT director at City Hall, he's been there for 8 years. We just now got introduced to him. Turns out he's a ham radio operator. And the reason is we did a
Ham cram.
No, this wasn't Hamcram that did it. What it was we did a full-blown CERT and EOC
Oh yeah.
test, probably at least 6 years ago. And he got to see Ciro and the hams in action at City Hall. And he got so inspired that he went out and got his ticket. And what makes it really funny is the VEs that signed his ticket are all Ciros, Sharkey and Mike Patterson, and they signed his ticket, which is really pretty cool.
And it actually may have also been that day. I can't be, it may have been Jim Siemens also.
It could have been. So what Ray did for us was he did not want us to be part of the City Hall network in any way, shape, or form. So he built us an Ethernet patch cable between floors. And we're allowed to use these little unmanaged switches because we're not on his network. So all you do is plug the switch into the LAN jack on our computer, and then one link goes to a laptop in the radio room, and that's 0. And then on the other side, you've got the EOC and the CERT liaisons on the 3rd floor. And we just eliminated the sneaker net, which is pretty cool. So this is actually running right now. And this was the test system. And this is the other real fun thing. In the radio room, we have 2 of these little wooden trays that Mark Birch built us many years ago when we started CERO. And they hold a Kenwood TMB71, which is this right here. And you can see that the huge size of the PC that is the server. That's a little Windows 10 Pro machine, 8 gig of memory, 120 gig drive with an i5 processor in it. It's all at $329 at Amazon. Okay. The little DRA sound card fits under here. And I was a little bit spooked about potential RFI when Sharkey put this together this way. We haven't had any problems at all. So this whole thing fits inside a file cabinet, and I'll show you the picture of that. But you get an idea of the size of the equipment based on you guys know what a TMV71 looks like. That's the radio. And we have 2 of those. So we have a voice backup in case this fails. Okay. So that's the test system, and it will be, in fact, the production system is sitting on my table in front of me, and it gets reinstalled on Thursday. What our IT director did was he was so impressed with the system that he bought a duplicate version with city money so we can give it back, this one back to Sharkey, and the red DRA card belongs to the CERT hams. So we can give their stuff back. Ray's bought his own replacement gear. So that's other than the display. Now you guys were talking about, I think somebody asked about a DRA. You got to remember these folks have no existing signal links. They have nothing. So they're starting from scratch. When you do that, we basically recommend this for about 2 or 3 reasons. First of all, the connections are a USB cable from your computer into this side. And you remember an old PS2, the round mouse cables, 6-pin DIN cable? If you use a mobile radio with a DIN jack, your radio cable costs you $10 at Amazon instead of a custom radio cable. This works with either packet or VARA FM wide with high speeds. We bought them assembled and tested. My eyesight is not such that I can build this. If you're determined and have lots of time, this is $50 as a kit, and you can solder it up yourself. That's up to you. It's not something I'm going to do. Okay, there's the whole test system. This is CERO World. This is the only space we have in that little interview room, is a single file drawer. So you've got 2 power supplies, 2 radios, a computer, a sound card, and a display in a single file drawer. And it works like a charm. The 2 little Ethernet cables you see trailing out of here are coming from that Ethernet switch. The red one goes to the LAN jack to the 3rd floor, and the blue one goes to the CERO laptop. And that's how difficult it is. You walk in with your laptop, plug it into the Ethernet switch, and you're on the air. And it works like a charm. Now, people were worried about AC power in the CERT command posts. As we just showed you there, that display and that computer are powered by 12 volts. You can pick a laptop or you can pick one of those, but this way, everything in the field can be 12 volt power. So this is a real positive thing. The only thing that you need is a better class of radios. My own personal suggestion is an Alinco DR135. It is a monoband VHF. It's the best bang for the buck with a rear data jack. The next one up is a Kenwood TMV71, and that's twice the price. So this is probably, I think it's 170 bucks at HRO, and it's bulletproof. I've been using it now for over 2 months. You simply turn it on and it runs. It's really easy to use. Now, we had a few things that were already fired at us. How can the EOC use WinLink? They're not licensed hams. Okay, valid question. They only connect by telnet. They're not on the air. Their users don't need to be licensed. 0 is the control operator. Any message that does not meet FCC standards can be deleted on RMS relay by 0. It never leaves. It never leaves and goes out on the network. Any site can email multiple people. Yeah, CC it. You know how to CC in an email. It's no different here. Martinez OES. The question was, we know WebEOC will never go down because the internet will never go down in a disaster. We know that already, okay? But just in case it does, we've already tested Martinez to Walnut Creek, and we've had Dave Pearsall and Klaus Berkner of the ACS group test with us. Can we add other work groups and sites? That is under discussion right now. This is a ham radio network, which means it's not a Motorola business radio type thing. This one I put on last night, a Ford versus Chevy discussion. Can I use a signal link instead? The older signal links have less bandwidth than the DRA card, and you don't get the VARA speed that we can get with DRA. It is still faster than 5 words a minute in the rain on a paper form with a broken crayon. It's quick. It's not as quick. It's fussier because it's Vox. Setting the delay can kind of be difficult at times. It does not mean it doesn't work. It does work. The DRA, if you're starting from scratch, the DRA is less expensive and has more capability. This one is interesting. How do we identify a site by a recognizable name rather than a call site? The call sign. We use tactical call signs in the system. Now this looks strange, and I'll tell you why we did this. KK6BSN is the club's call sign. This is a Walnut Creek Shams club sign. It is also the club sign of the CERT repeater, which is the big monopole at 680 and 24. We're one of the antennas on that monopole. We arranged it this way because of VARA. So KK6BSN1, the tactical call sign is Buena-WCC, which is Walnut Creek CERT. And the site is the Buena Vista CERT command post. So if you're going to email Buena Vista, you send the message to the tactical call sign. You do not need to use the number. And the reason we did this is VARA knows about call signs. It does not know about tactical calls. When you buy a VARA license for $69, one time, lifetime, you can license the master call KK6BSN and up to 15 additional calls or locations. All of our conversations are local and on our own network, which means we're always calling KK6BSN. We also have RMS relay and RMS packet at the end. We checked with the author of VARA, and he said you need 1 license. So everybody in Walnut Creek CERT is covered by a $69 license, which is pretty cool. Now, there are lots and lots of RMS Express message templates. There must be at least 80 of them. And this is one we picked because one of the weaknesses of a standard ICS 213 is it doesn't have priorities and it doesn't have message numbers. So there's your example of a tactical call sign. It came from Ross, which is Rossmore, and it is message 11 for this date and this time. You have traceability and you have priority. Now, when we did our stress test, which is to get everybody up on it and beat the computer to death and try to see how much traffic we can push at it, my CERT friend said, what does HICS stand for? And like the naive fool that I am, I said, Hospital Incident Command System, which is true. And they said, that's not us, we're CERT. And we don't have urgent priorities. We have emergency. Okay, you can modify them. This requires you to do a little bit of creative editing in JavaScript and text, but it can be done. If I could do it, you can do it. We now have a CERT 213 with full online instructions. You can click if you don't know how to fill it out. It has message numbers, automatically assigned from this tactical call sign, incident name, to, from, subject, date, time is filled in, you just click it. The precedence, which is the official term, emergency, priority, routine, and you fill it out and submit it and send it. The goal of this is you write the message once, not multiple transcriptions. Now, if you're really determined, you can create a form from scratch. What we did here, and this is a John Vanderveer. John is a professional programmer. He took a PDF form that we use manually and turned it into a JavaScript browser form. And this is 1,700 lines of JavaScript that he created. I think to prove that he could. This is not something you do over a day and a half. This was probably a 2-week effort on weekends. But literally, yeah, you can do your own templates, but it's probably easier to adapt something that already exists or to use something that meets your needs, even if it says HICS. So this has a drop down for the command post. It has the automatic message numbering. You click on the box, fill in the information, and off it goes. And all of these templates do something really interesting. They have browser form input, but only the user text that you type in is what's transmitted, which is why it's so fast. And if you think about it, this is what we do with manual messages. You're not sending a form. You're sending information to someone who knows how to fill out the same form. This is nothing new. So here's what a 213 output looks like. And you notice down here, we tell them what template it is. And then WinLink Express is smart enough to recreate the form at the receiving end based on text. And all of the templates work this way. And this is the one that got to me the first time I saw it. You know how much fun it is to fill out comms logs. Here, you push a button, you can specify the date and the time range, the operational period, fill it out, hit the button, and if you're using a message number, a template, you get the message number, to, from, date, time, the whole 9 yards, and this goes on for as many pages as you need. Now, my joke about this is, you know what it's like to fill these out. That's worth your price of admission. My experience with this was at the last time we did Urban Shield. I was a lead ham operator for Urban Shield in Concord. I talked for 8 hours straight, and 2 people from Sunnyvale ACS manually filled out a log that ran to 8 pages of every single radio message sent and received. That was painful. They were extremely good at it. But this right here with mechanizing it is extraordinary. And it's customized for each station. The only thing you notice here is we couldn't fix the tactical calls here. This is the actual call sign. I couldn't figure out how to fix that. So feeds and speeds, odds and ends. We've had better luck with VHF. That was number 1. And the second item is, this is the old, how are you going to keep them down on the farm? Nobody wants to do packet after they see VARA. 2 of our testers are using signal links. The rest of them are on DRA 50 cards. We found the signal links are a bit harder to get calibrated, and they're a bit slower than the DRAs. We used nothing but mobile class 20 to 30 watt radios. We excluded handhelds from the test. And this got sensitive, and I need to explain why we did it. We're trying to prove that a system works. We're not trying to prove that an individual ham can get their bow thing to work. And this was exactly what we were facing, is I want my Wouxon to work. And I want to build my own breadboard, my own signal link, because I don't want to spend any money on the signal link. That isn't a test of WinLink. That's a test of one individual. So what we did is we said, we recommend mobile class radios. When you guys implement the system, if you want to include handhelds, then the burden is on the person with the handheld to be able to talk to the system and not the other way around. That's why we did it. That's a sensitive point. Both the test and the production system can handle alternating VARA and packet, not simultaneous, alternating, because you're only dealing with one channel. And the caution is packet can handle collisions and simultaneous sessions, VARA can't. So we didn't know whether our CERT operators could work without a voice net control. Turned out they could. And they got so excited about it, they actually, on the stress test, nobody collided. They did a really, really good job. So VARA continuously adjusts its session speeds on signal to noise, message size, transmission quality, and so forth. If we have time and you guys are interested, we'll demo it for you. And as I've told you, a $69 license, one license, covers all of our on-air users. So the current status is production system goes in on Thursday. Walnut Creek is moving to fundraising for the field equipment and starting the implementation phase. So we have the city IT director 100% on our side, which is a huge benefit to us. We waited for 10 years to get between the second and third floor, literally. And we just overcame that obstacle, literally almost overnight. So this was huge. So I haven't been watching the chat. I'm hoping somebody is. I'm more than happy to look at things. We got to roll the credits here though first. So this was done by the Walnut Creek Shams Technical Subcommittee. K9ONR is me. Mike Patterson is N6JGA. He served as our documentarian and documented all of the methods and procedures and set up gear and everything for the radios. He also served as our disciplinarian, which is a very important role. System tester. Sharkey, WW1ACE is our lead tester, and he was responsible for onboarding all the new folks that came in. We are testing from people's homes on personal radios. And then I took my truck out and verified all the command posts worked. And then we have some unindicted co-conspirators. Thomas Noel is an amazing WinLink development team field support guy that lives up in Bandon, Oregon. I am now on his butt dial list. And we are one of the very few people that are doing a standalone RMS. And so we've become somewhat infamous for being rather good at it. Don is our mentor and guru and was the one that led us into this challenge to begin with. Ray Lamb, KK6 VCX, is the IT director, and Kevin Custer of Master Communications, the makers of the DRA. And we worked with 10 folks throughout Walnut Creek who were patient and watched the system bounce up and down and let's try this, let's try that. And we're just made this thing work, and they have really gotten excited about it. So we're quite happy about the results. And that is where we're going to stop and see what kind of things we got for questions and see what your reactions are.
This is really cool and really well set up. I hope that you've documented everything and put it somewhere where people can recreate it, because I think that this is it sounds like a template that cities could just roll out like all over, and also making sure the barrier to entry is not like excessive and needing special, like you have some specialized equipment, of course, but like not off the shelf stuff, no, more or less.
There is
Great
nothing
work.
there's nothing literally off the shelf in this whole setup.
Yeah.
And everything is documented and could be handed over to anyone who wishes to replicate it.
John, we should think about, if you really feel that way, I'm not sure we're quite ready to post it all, but we could put it up on the county website. We have As you know, we now have the county CERT website has a second page, if you will, for communications. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, we can talk about that. I think what we're really interested in is trying to gauge interest and to see what people think of it and whether they'd like to play. And we'd be glad to be resources for something like that.
All I can say is, wow. Put a
Now,
lot
the
of
one,
work into
the
this.
one thing I can say is, and I don't mind it at all. If people want to, get these little DRA cards and, you don't want to go through the manual yourself. I have done this. Sometimes it takes up to 2 hours. I don't mind. And I've gotten thanks to John, I've gotten very good at, okay, let's go down to sounds and let's look at this. This is what Windows has done to us again.
Yeah, this is the one thing that I will caution you about is that Windows, with the DRA cards are a USB device. So when you plug them in, it assigns all the characteristics for that card to that USB slot, which means you don't pick a different USB the next time because Windows will have forgotten everything it learned on the other USB jack.
Yep.
And if you start plugging in other things like monitors and headsets, Windows will help you, whether you wish to be helped or not. We've actually had more trouble in this system with Windows than we had on any other aspect of it. So, and that's one of the things that has driven us kind of nuts.
And the other thing also that, when you say the ports, the USB ports, if you have one of those little multiple ports where you put it into one port and you have 4 inputs into that one port, that's another no-no. You got to have it as a sole. You got to use it as a sole port.
I got a question.
What's that?
Can we, would it work on our Raspberry Pi Zero? And whether it's a DRA or a RIM Lite, I mean, that is a small form factor.
That's a small form factor. There is a group of folk who have ported WinLink Express to a Pi. The problem is Vara is a dedicated Windows application. This is the same question we got is, I'm an Apple guy, will it run on Macs? And the answer is no, sadly it won't. So this is strictly a Windows app. You could probably run the WinLink Express on a Pi, no question, Justin. But I don't know what you'd do for a fast transmission protocol at this point. That doesn't mean it won't change. The other thing that's kind of weird is we are using older radios with the exception of the Alinco and a couple of the Kenwoods. Most of the new radios coming out don't have rear data jacks because they've all gone into something fancy on the internet. So we're a little bit curious about the future of rear data jacks. Should we put it that way? These are the round, DIN, like old Cantronics format jacks that I'm talking about.
Want to see it work?
I have a question. I see a Marnix. I got to ask this question. I see a Marnix on here. Marnix, is that you from number 2 SCCS days of the telephone company?
I was muted. Yes, I was from number 2 FCCS.
Greetings from the Oakland data center.
I'll be damned. Long time.
Yeah, that's the Wayback Machine. There's very few people I know that are named Marnix. That had to be you. Bless
What
your
were
heart.
you?
Another old phone company. See, there's 2 degrees of separation, guys. Okay. All right. What I would like to do, if we can, is I'm going to share the screen again, and I'm going to show you what WinLink Express looks like. This is what the desktop looks like on WinLink Express. And basically, you put in your call sign up here. This is the -1 through -15. You can start messages here. You can put on attachments, like we'll show you how that works. The session thing is the thing I wanted to show you. If I open a session right now, Telnet WinLink, I'm talking directly on a wired connection to the server. And I will start a session. This is a very fast session because it's wired. It's already done. It interrogates, is there any email sent, received? No. What Sharkey will do is open up another one of the on-air protocols, which is VARA, right here. So if you think about how you send email, you just push the send receive button normally. On this, you tell Winlink which transmission protocol you want to use. And we are using almost exclusively VARA at this point. And if you look at this one, Iridium Go, that's a satellite Winlink. And if you're out on a sailboat in the middle of the Pacific, you can send email on Winlink using a satellite. So there's probably, I don't know, 36,000 Winlink users and about 14,000 of them per month on average. So what I'm going to do is I stashed some messages over here in drafts. This is set up almost like you have your contacts down here. So what I did was I set 4 messages in here, and this is a simple email. I directed it, I pushed 2, and I have my choice of where I want to send the message, or you can manually enter it. You have a subject, you can attach if you wish. Simple email, and all you do is dump it in the outbox. That's one simple one. It will actually transfer it across because I'm wired. I'm going to do one more with, this time I'm going to use a template. So Sharkey can show you what it looks like when he receives it. This is the CERT 213, and we'll go ahead and send it. And Sharkey, why don't you open up a VARA, share your screen. I'll stop here. You'll share your screen and show them what it looks like when you start a session and get your email.
So this right here is our VARA. I'm going to open the session. I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to open this session and I'm going to just hit start. You can watch these meters just going like crazy here.
This is connecting to my system, which is probably about 2.5, 3 miles away. And we get what's called a constellation diagram, which is the thing that's glowing there as opposed to a waterfall. And if you look all the way down here at the bottom of of the VARA display, you can see the speed in bits per second.
Right
it
here.
stays low when it's just checking email. If it has information that it has to send, it automatically jumps in speed, as you just saw it do. So it's running about 5,000 bits per second now as it's receiving these emails.
On a big message, it'll go to what, 20,000, John?
It depends on the signal quality and the signal noise
But
ratio.
I've seen that on my system, 2023.
Yes, that's at the high end. And you notice
There
in
they are.
bold up here, Sharkey has 3 new emails.
Right. And I'm going to open the first one right here. I'm going to click on the yellow arrow and watch what happens to my screen. Okay, there it is. There is the full message that
Now,
John
what I
sent.
did was I filled out that form. We sent text, and then the form got recreated at the other end. And that's pretty slick. That's why it works so fast.
This is the text right there.
Okay.
This is the text.
You can reply, send it back, and so forth. Okay.
You can just, all you got to do is reply all. This is the simple text. And that's just the simple email coming across. Now,
That one I didn't use a template.
right. Now, do you want to tell them what I accidentally did?
You can tell them the story. I'm going to go ahead and send 2 more. I'm going to send you another message on mine. If I can, I want to send one with a big attachment so I can show them what it looks like.
Okay.
Coming into you.
All right. So, unbeknownst to me, I took a picture of something here in my garage and loaded it up. And I put it up on to send to John, 2.5 miles away. It was a 1 megabyte picture. It took 10 minutes. I got that 1 megabyte picture across. And you should have seen the constellation was up at 2200 for literally 10 minutes. So we found out.
Sharkey, go ahead and start it again.
All right, here we go. It's this simple. Boom.
Hang on
Start.
just a second.
Oh,
Just a second. Okay, go ahead.
there he goes. You can see the constellation
This time, watch the speed at the bottom line of
right
that
here,
bar.
right
Okay?
here. And you can see the red bars. The red bars also tell you.
Doesn't make any sense to me.
Okay, it doesn't need to make, yeah. What we're really saying is this is a 6-page Microsoft Word document about 21K in size. It will take roughly 2 minutes to send.
Yeah, the bottom line is we can be sitting, one of my CERT incident commanders can be sitting at a pop-up out in the park with the internet and everything else down, and can send a spreadsheet with damage assessments from that park to the 3rd floor EOC, all electronically, all over VHF, and
Yeah.
do it in a minute, 90 seconds, something like that. It's a
Yeah.
capability we never had before.
Yeah.
And we've done that.
basically-
We've sent Excel spreadsheets this way.
Yeah, this basically is extremely difficult, if not impossible, to do manually. And it's difficult enough in FLDigi and FL Message. The other advantage to this is you simply start the session and it takes care of the error correction and
Right.
everything else. It just
And by the
simply-
way, there's VARA with all the meters and dials. You don't need any of that. You don't have to know about that. Basically, what you have to know is this other screen that shows the email. You draft an email, you open a session, print start, and you're off and running.
Yeah.
So it takes minimal training. Somebody really just needs to know a little bit how to run Windows. That's all.
Yeah.
There it is. It's done.
Okay, now if you open up that Word document attachment, Sharkey, and this is the other advantage, is it'll open up in its native
There we
program.
go.
Don has sent me KML files from Google
Yeah, I
Earth.
did that too. Right.
So it says, the problem is right here kind of thing. And this runs 6 pages. This is from, this was a joke about COVID in last year. Dave Barry's year in review. And this is one paragraph that runs 6 pages. That's really hard to do with saying I spell. Okay. And that's more than CERT would probably ever send.
It better not.
Indeed. But it gives you the idea of what can accomplish. You can also send photos, and I said this real carefully. If you get them too big, it will automatically tell you that they're too large to send and make you resize them. And also, if you send a picture that takes 5 minutes to send, you're tying up the entire channel, in our case, for 8 other people, while
For
you are
5 minutes.
determined to send your one photo.
Uh,
So you do that carefully.
Okay, you've got a question, John, in the
Go ahead.
chat.
Spoofing nodes or intercepting content. Okay. We only accept, in this case, messages from the node. You have to have the password in order to use the call sign, and I did not put the password on there. And as far as intercepting content, how do you handle that in a manual mode today?
That's fair. Yeah. I mean, I know it being ham, you can't use encryption. So
It's more
Yeah.
secure only because it's a little technically more advanced.
Yeah.
We're pretty careful about, for example, we don't send health information anyway.
Yeah. That's because of HIPAA.
You're right.
Steve, you asked about a TM 710A. Yes, the answer is yes, it will work beautifully. There's no, you can spoof nodes and you can spoof content on a manual basis or interfere with it. You do that today.
You had a comment earlier about your COM issues with USB. Have you heard of, and there's a little utility called COM0COM, which is a virtual
Yes.
COM port, and you can assign any COM port to any COM port. And as I understand, Windows gets a little bit touchy up to the first 10 COM ports. After that, it doesn't care so much. Would that be something that you could, because it's a Windows product, you could probably put it into those small items.
I have heard of it. I have seen it. What I am trying to do on this is to make it as dirt simple as I possibly can to where it's palatable. It requires enough Windows knowledge now, and I don't necessarily want to conflate it at this point. I have heard of that program though, John, and that may be something it might in the future if we have issues. But right now we're dealing with a laptop that has a single, sound card on it, whether it's a signal link or a DRA. And as long as we get that assigned, I just put a Dymo label on my laptop, says DRA, goes in there, plug it in there.
Hmm.
And I
Yeah.
don't have that problem.
Mike Patterson put together a step-by-step guide for how to implement and install the whole system.
Yeah.
And I did it following his guide with, no help except at the very end, just to optimize it, not to make it running. You have to know how to use Windows, but not as you don't have to know the registry or any of that nonsense. You just have to know how to plug something in and play with the maybe play with the sound settings on Windows 10, which is, again, it's explicitly stated on how to do it on the guide that Mike wrote up.
Yeah, this would be really daunting if you tried to do it from scratch without any help.
Mhm.
It
So
could
you
be
were
done, but it only took us 10 months.
you're aiming for the KISS method.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, we have 150 CERT hams probably in Walnut Creek, not all active, and a lot of them became hams just to do CERT, and they took the ham cram, turn on a radio. They can more or less change channels if they're pre-programmed. They're not terribly sophisticated radio operators. More of them can use Windows than the radios, quite frankly. But that's our audience. And quite frankly, FLDigi wouldn't cut it with that. There were too many glitches with FLDigi. We haven't had any trouble with anybody who we trained. I think
No.
that's correct.
That is
Yeah.
correct, Don.
And we have people that are using signal links through the mic jacks, which automatically limits your speed because of the filters that are in the mic jacks. Like I said, the only thing we excluded were handhelds until we got the system stable, but we're not going to jeopardize the system because we can't get one handheld to work. Also, I don't want to write the training documentation for 10 different models of handhelds.
Would this work over a repeater?
Conceivably, it has been done over a repeater. The problem is most repeaters have a ID canned, and that ID then interferes with the transmission and may drop the connection.
Mhm.
There's also the duty cycle issue with a repeater. This is all simplex, and you sit on that thing for 2 or 3 minutes. Your repeater trustee might not be happy with you.
Right.
One thing this will do that's really interesting is it will digipede. And the only thing you have to do is put your call sign in a field in the VARA setup. And I can.
Do you want to do it?
I don't, I don't have a setup. I can't.
Hang on.
Basically, I can bounce from Sharkey to Lou Jenkins in Pleasant Hill by simply saying connect to N6VV via
There you go.
WW1ACE. That's all I have to do to get
That's
there.
it.
Right there. And you can bounce through one location to get to another. And if people are only doing digipeding, they do not need to be licensed for VARA because they're not the originator and they're not the recipient of the message, which is kind of cool.
And that bouncing can be unattended?
Yes.
Yes, that's one good thing. We had the bouncing working real well for Larry Loomer, as you guys see up there. KI6LMB is way out in Clayton. He used his automobile and put his computer in the automobile. And once he moved outside of one little area, next thing you know, he was able to hit downtown Walnut Creek without any hitches on VHF.
Yeah. And the other thing is, I personally have tested all the CERT sites by simply driving to them. I got a laptop, the DRA card, and my Yaesu in the truck, and a mag mount, and I can hit anywhere in Walnut Creek on 20 watts.
It's fascinating.
It's completely fascinating. We have had more fun with this. It has stretched our minds. but we have had more fun with it over the last 12 months, 10 months, roughly.
Is there a great deal of error correction going
Yes.
on?
Yes,
Uh,
particularly on Vara. But Vara does not like to be interrupted by other signals. It compresses on the fly, and it also has a lot of error correction as well built into it.
But if you have interference, it can upset it.
It slows down.
Just
Just-
slows down.
It just slows down. Yeah.
Just slows down.
It
Sometimes,
constantly adjusts its speed
Yeah.
based on the signal to noise.
All right. Well, for the sake of time, I just want to make sure we keep things moving along here. Is there any
Yeah.
other final questions?
again, Justin, just so you know, John and I, if you guys want to have anybody pursue it further, let us know.
If anybody here wants to get a hold of you guys, John, did you say you had an email page you were
Yeah,
going to
you can
flash
use
there?
Trint, TRINT at att.net.
Very good. Thank you very much. Well, I think we're going to go ahead and move into the next part of our meeting.
All right.
And
Well,
thank you all
thanks,
so much
Paul.
for presenting.
Thanks for letting us play.
Thank you, John and Sharkey. See you
You're
again.
good.
We'll see you
Thank
later.
you.
And
All right.
Don,
Take care, guys.
Thank you very much.